Have you ever wondered how many penguins it would take to take down a tank? What factors do we have to consider? In this video, we will explore these questions and try to give an approximate answer. But before, leave a like and comment who you think will come victorious. Penguins are birds that cannot fly but have adapted to the aquatic environment. They have a waterproof plumage, a hydrodynamic body, and fins that allow them to swim at high speed. They can also walk on land, although with less agility. Their size, weight, and strength vary depending on the species, from the small blue penguins that measure about 40 centimeters and weigh about 1 kilogram, to the imposing emperor penguins that reach 120 centimeters and 40 kilograms. These differences may be relevant when facing a tank, as they imply different capacities of movement, resistance, and attack. Tanks are armored vehicles that are used for military purposes. They have a chassis with tracks that allow them to move over irregular terrain, a turret with a cannon that can fire explosive projectiles, and a cabin where the crew is housed. Their size, weight, and the materials they are made of depend on the model, but in general they are much larger than penguins. For example, an M1 Abrams tank measures about 8 m long, 4 m wide, and 3 m high, weighs about 60 tons, and is made of steel reinforced with composite armor. The type of tank we choose will also affect the scenario, as it will have different performance of speed, firepower, and defense. We will imagine 3 possible ways in which penguins could try to take down a tank. Penguins trying to move the tank. In this case, the penguins would try to push or drag the tank to get it out of its position or make it overturn. To do this, they would have to apply enough force to overcome the inertia and friction of the tank. Penguins trying to enter the tank. In this case, the penguins would look for some way to access the interior of the tank and interfere with its operation. To do this, they would have to find some opening or crack through which to sneak in or create it themselves. Penguins trying to disable the tank. In this case, the penguins would try to damage some vital part of the tank, such as the engine, the cannon, or the electrical system. To do this, they would have to use some tool or weapon or take advantage of some weakness of the tank. Estimating the number of penguins needed in each scenario, this will be the most difficult and creative step, as we will have to do some calculations and estimates. We may have to make some assumptions and simplify the scenarios to make them feasible. Penguins trying to move the tank. Suppose we have an M1 Abrams tank and we want to move it 1 m. The force required to do so will depend on the mass of the tank, 60,000 kilograms, the acceleration we want to give it, for example, 0.1 meters per square second, and the coefficient of friction between the tank and the ground, for example, 0.5. Applying Newton's second law, we have that F ma mc, where F is the total force, m is the mass of the tank, is the acceleration, mu is the coefficient of friction, and g is the gravity, 9.8 meters per square second. Substituting the values, we get that F equals 60, 000 times 0.1 plus 0.5 times 60, 000 times 9.8. F égale 294,600 N. This is the force that the penguins would have to exert to move the tank. Now, how much force can a penguin make? This will depend on the species, but suppose we take the emperor penguin, which is the largest and strongest. According to a study, an emperor penguin can exert a force of about 200 N with its beak. If we assume that all the penguins can use their beak to push the tank, then the number of penguins needed will be N égale FF, where N is the number of penguins, F is the total force, and F is the force of a penguin. Substituting the values, we get that N égale 200294600, N égale 1,473. That is, it would take about 1,473 emperor penguins to move an M1 Abrams tank 1 m. This assuming that all the penguins can be placed around the tank and that there is no obstacle or resistance from the tank or the crew. Penguins trying to enter the tank. Suppose we have the same M1 Abrams tank and we want the penguins to enter it. The first thing we would have to find out is if there is any opening or crack through which the penguins can pass. According to the specifications of the tank, the only opening it has is the hatch of the turret, which measures about 60 centimeters in diameter. The rest of the tank is sealed and armored. Therefore, the penguins would have to enter through the hatch, which implies that they would have to climb the turret and open the hatch. This does not seem very easy, as the penguins are not very agile on land and the hatch is closed with a security mechanism. In addition, the crew of the tank could prevent it or shoot the penguins. Therefore, the number of penguins needed to enter the tank would be very high, perhaps impossible to calculate. Penguins trying to disable the tank. Suppose we have the same M1 Abrams tank and we want the penguins to disable it. To do this, they would have to damage some vital part of the tank, such as the engine, the cannon, or the electrical system. This also does not seem very easy, as the tank is designed to withstand impacts and explosions. The penguins would have to use some tool or weapon or take advantage of some weakness of the tank. For example, they could try to cut the wires, pierce the fuel tank, obstruct the cannon or the exhaust pipe, etc. However, this would require a lot of intelligence, coordination, and precision from the penguins, as well as a large number of them. In addition, the tank could defend itself or flee from the penguins. Therefore, the number of penguins needed to disable the tank would also be very high, perhaps impossible to calculate. We have seen 3 possible ways in which the penguins could try to take down a tank, and we have estimated the number of penguins needed in each case. We have found that the only feasible way would be to move the tank, and that it would take about 1,473 emperor penguins to do it. The other 2 ways would be very difficult or impossible and would require an indeterminate number of penguins. These results suggest that the original question is quite absurd and that the penguins have no chance of defeating a tank. They also show us that the power of numbers, the importance of size and strength, and the absurdity of the question are factors that we have to take into account.